Stop playing the fear game of what you're watching all the time and get into being a still game and being smart. Where did Warren Buffett just put his money? In L&R, D.R. Horton, and KB Homes, right? Which is some of the biggest developers. Buy. Even if you have to buy out far.
What's going on, millionaires? It's your guy, Kai Speaks, and you're tapped into another episode of the $1 Million Mind podcast. And this one, I say all the episodes are special, but this one, it's like it holds a different weight to it because this is a conversation we're going to have about just divine timing, accountability, mindset, and just really being able to go back to the foundations. You know, not just the foundations of what we're doing, but the foundations of who we are, because these conversations are needed, especially when we having these conversations about entrepreneurship and money. You know, in order to really tap into the abundance of those things, it starts back to your foundations and your systems and all these things of who we are at our core. Because when it comes down to being reactive, you know, we always fall to our systems. We don't rise to, you know, our success and the things we want to accomplish. We always fall to the disciplines that we have, the mindsets that we have, the biases we learn to unlearn, et cetera. And so I had this conversation, or I had the pleasure of having this conversation with you, Jasmine, as, you know, we have met and we finally able to connect in person and, you know, continue these dialogues and things like that. But when we met, it was almost like it was, I'm not going to say it was coincidental. I'm not going to say it was weird, but I'm going to say it was divine, because to give y'all the context, I used to be in wholesale. Y'all remember my wholesale journey, you know, working with Ryan and Ty, and I met Jasmine on one of our deals, and I'm trying to find a buyer. Jasmine reached out. She said she was interested in one of our deals. And for some reason, you know, we ended up going from talking about a deal to just getting a little bit closer and just learning a little bit more about each other and some of the goals and things that we want to accomplish. And then I had some ideas to work with Jasmine on some other things outside of the wholesaling. Remember, we was talking about the creative finance and everything like that. And, you know, just the timing wasn't right. But here we are, you know, fast forward maybe now a year later, and we found ourselves having, you know, some similar conversation, but identifying and opening up some other doors where we learning about each other, learning about some sacrifices we had to take, some steps we had to take back. And I think that this conversation is much needed for our listeners because it's just a game of life. We all go through it. We all find ourselves overwhelmed, underwhelmed, feeling like we need to take on the world when really we just need to take on ourselves and take a step back and just kind of listen. And so without further ado, I want to put the mic in the cam on Jasmine Jenkins. And Jasmine is, you know, been in real estate investor, originally from California. And you got a nice portfolio, did some amazing things in the real estate industry. But I also want you to tell our listeners and give them some context on not just why you got into real estate, but, you know, now the shift that you're making into the development of people and not just the development of land and architecture.
Let's talk about the development of people. I realized that on my journey of building myself, building entrepreneurship, that it takes a real driving force to accomplish things. And everybody doesn't have that. I mean, factually, we stop learning at 25, okay? Unless you have the drive to do it. And when I was out there helping people and like, hey, we're going to do this, and I see it in you, it's going to have this, people were dropping off. And I was like, I want this more than they want it for themselves. So I had to transition into understand what God had for me. And I was like, does he want it all to just all this knowledge and all this passion for people just to like go by the wayside?
Yeah.
I don't think God would not want me to serve his people and his children with all the exponential knowledge that he's given me. But I was doing it in the wrong way. I was sacrificing myself, you know, having more faith in other people's drive than what they were willing to give up. And so in that, I broke, right? You know, you never want to work harder for a person than they're willing to work for themselves. And that's just the game. Period.
Yeah.
Like,
Some of us barely work harder for ourselves than we do for other people.
Right. So I got into, instead of just, like you said, instead of just developing in real estate, developing people. So figuring out who you are, what you want for yourself, and where you're starting. Let's be realistic, right? About your dreams, your aspirations, and then what can you really deal with? What can you really deal with? And a lot of times people aren't being real with themselves. It's kind of like how you said, hey, we scroll, we see things, and we all want to do what everybody else is doing, but we don't tap into our individual gifts. And because of that, we're trampling foundations, not only of other people's foundation, but also ourselves. And it becomes just a cycle.
Yeah. And now talk about that process for you and what that looked like when you were able to identify what your gift was. Because I know when we spoke a couple of days ago, you were mentioning like how you always thought it was a gift, but you were kind of fighting it and kind of running away from it as well. And people always say, Jasmine, you should be teaching. You should do this. You should do that. But you kind of like, nah, I want to more so go into this lane. But here you are now kind of stepping into the role of an educator, of a teacher, to say the least. And you find yourself back to that. What did that process look like for you to even identify your gift and how you could even move in a direction to fulfill that?
The opportunity being presented so many times. And that's the thing, right? Until you learn your lesson and where you're supposed to be, God loves you. He is going to tap on you so many times, but are you going to listen? Are you going to be still enough to listen? And are you going to be courageous enough to press through to figure out how you can do it and land in it to where you can balance and actually suffice it?
Wow, that's a lot to unpack, because you mentioned having the courage, and that's not necessarily something that comes with the tap, right? It's like you're going to get the tap, and the once you turn around, it's like, who's tapping me? You figure it out, and the call might be to jump in this deep water, and you might not even think you know how to swim yet, but you're saying you got to jump in the water anyway. I guess, what is the first step to gather? Like, do you just jump in head first, or do you take some time to practice swimming before you jump into the water?
Me.
You gonna jump in head first?
No.
You gonna practice?
So, yeah.
Okay.
So, me, it's kind of like how we talked about, right? Going into somebody else's institution, right? And letting them pay you for the information that you want to gain. I am a studier. I'm a risk taker. But I always like to say, hey, if it can be a 70-30 chance instead of a 50-50 chance, why not? Right? And that's why information is golden.
Yeah.
Information is golden. So I'll go at it. I'll learn more about it. I find people in that. That's why networking and relationships are priceless. And I'll write down a plan. How do I want to execute it? What have I done? What experiences can I put with that? Right? And is it something that makes sense for the risk that I'm about to take? Like, a lot of people aren't that calculated. A lot of risk takers, they'll just go like, yeah, jump into the water. Yeah, jump into the water, all right. Yeah, be fearless, but be smart. Right?
And so it looks like coming up with a plan. What does your plan usually look like? Is the plan structured the same way for each risk that you might take, or does it change on a case-by-case basis? Like, do you have a formula to how you plan out before you jump in and take a risk?
Honestly, a little bit. Meaning, I don't try to do everything. That's why I say, like, you got to be in the business of you.
Okay.
And that's the reason why, how we said about developing you, understanding that you are the first business entity you're ever going to really affect. So if you don't know who you are, you'll be doing every single thing. And yes, I love diversification, but you can be overly diversified to where it hinders you and hurts you. So know what you're doing. Know what you're passionate about, right? And be willing to let go of the things that, aren't that, and focus in. So, hey, it's kind of like me. I started with purchasing my first home, right? FHA, bought as many units as I could with it, which is 4, and turned into a property manager. Put myself through college, gained some more value, right? They ticked me off. I went and bought another one and did the same
You said
again.
they ticked you off?
Yeah, they ticked me off at my job.
Oh, so you was just ready to get out.
Yeah, but you got to understand the system. You still got to build wealth. How much wealth do you have? Anything that controls your emotions and controls you. So I stayed, but I made a plan. Right? What happened? You already bought something before you went in to get in all this big money. Well, that plan worked already. So then take the bigger money and buy some more.
Okay.
Then I was making more money than the job was giving me yearly.
And then you left the job.
And then I left the job.
So because we got a lot of people that is in that position, right? At a job that they don't like, at a job that does emotionally move them to where it might even hinder them and stop them from even taking another 3 hours after work to go work on themselves, because now we got to take the rest of the evening to decompress over how hard of a day we just had. When you are in a position like that, is it best to bite the bullet, stick it out, and create a plan to, have a side hustle? Or should people just be looking for jobs that they could, enjoy a little bit more?
So one thing I say is know your worth, right?
Okay.
Don't just listen to me and say quit your job. You'll be a fool. Make sure you're doing a smooth transition, right? Numbers is the name of the game. Meaning, did you already suffice the amount of money that you're making in that place, and can you step away from it? On top of that, do you have to step away from it fully? My job was radiology. I had already gained a trade that I can go back to at any time across the nation. So remember, I told you have to invest in you first.
Yeah.
So I invested in me, in the system that we were in. They say go to school, right? Fine, I'll go to school and gain a trade with something that we're always gonna need. The business of death is real, and healthcare will always be here.
Yeah.
Just like insurance will always be here, FYI.
And that's interesting too, because I think trade now is like it's like a lost art. And because I feel like a lot of our schools have pushed into going into learning basic skills, but not trades. Like, I think there's a difference between a trade and going into a job that you can be replaced at any time. Like, it's like so many other people that still have the skills of hopping on Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and can plug in some numbers on a spreadsheet and sit behind a cubicle and, work this job for 8 hours. That's a lot different than having a trade like you mentioned in radiology. And I'm not even educated on what a radiologist is, what they do, and but I could tell you it's not enough of them.
Right, and more so X-ray, mammography. So radiologist would be your doctor. X-ray, mammographer would be that person that goes ahead and captures those images for that radiologist in order to read. Got you.
So people should go more into learning trades, and I think from this conversation is like people can get from not just going into the trade, but becoming the masters of their trade too, and really owning it. Because like you said, it's like you now have a skill that you can take anywhere in the, any organization, anywhere in the country, probably even anywhere in the world.
You've got it. And then remember when I said to focus, like you don't need to do everything that everybody's doing. For instance, how God brought me back. So I'm back at work right now, okay? And I did that for my daughter, to make sure that I could suffice another bill that was coming. But essentially, I just got to jump right back into work because there's a need. COVID just happened. Guess what? They've been paying travel techs all over, heaps amount, right? I'm in Georgia. I'm in California. Just got a job and make more than the average person here in Georgia, But guess what? I'm what? A W-2 employee again.
Right. And you laughing too, that.
Because it's all about the game.
Yeah.
You got to understand the system that you're in, right? Let's go back into creative financing. If you're an agent and you got a trade, what do I have now?
You got something that pays you.
I can sit there and go and use my W-2 job to go and acquisition a property, put myself on it as the agent, and put my commission towards the funds of 3.5%. Just because you have a trade and you went and got another little hustle, you know you want to buy real estate. Why not get the license and make it work for you?
Yeah.
Talk about OPM. What about your money that's coming to you? It's just about how to repurpose it. Okay. So
you said something that was a little unpopular too, like using your money, right? Like nobody wants to use their hard-earned money and put that towards an investment, or it's like the whole thing is using other people's money.
everybody keeps saying that. I get it.
How do you benefit from repurposing your money? Because it's like people still got bills to pay, people still trying to save, and savings is already a struggle for majority of Americans. What does that look like? Having a plan to use your money, for these investments and stuff like that.
Like I said, it's the simple basics, and that's the reason why I got into developing people. If you don't even know what your income is coming in and what your expenses is going out, you already messed up in your own entity. Let's start there. So it's just like me. If I made $7.50 an hour and I'm making off of $7.50 an hour, if I increase my value, that money shouldn't be being spent, right? It should be being saved. But if you don't have enough discipline, like you spoke about before, you're never going to get there. But you're never even going to get there not knowing what your expenses and your income is.
Yeah.
To see yourself on paper. So sometimes it just takes those basics, and people are scared of that.
Scared of the time? Yeah, because
Scared of looking at themselves on paper.
Yeah, I'm about to say, you're talking about budgeting. And, I mean, I'm guilty of this.
That's how you start to make a plan.
That's how you start to make a plan. But I'll be honest, every time I budgeted, I've only budgeted when I had a whole lot of money I needed to save, or I got into one time I started budgeting was I got into a car accident, had to come out of pocket a whole lot of money. And I'm like, how am I going to come out this money? I guess it's time to start budgeting so I can see where my money goes. Once I got out the situation, guess what? I stopped budgeting. And I think a lot of people are like that. So
I got something to say.
Go ahead, share it with me, because I'm trying to figure it out.
Here it goes. What I realized a long time ago is that, no pun intended, African American people are never copying everyone else that they're talking about. You're always talking about big money, but guess what? Asians and Mexicans, they talk about the small money and compounding off of that. They're counting cents and change. You get it? You only want to budget when you have money. You don't have any money. Half of the black dollar is spent in everybody else's community. You have no money. So what you need to do is be still, sit down. Who are you? Because guess what? Nobody really wants to take the risk on you.
Damn, I feel
Even when you go into real estate, guess what? How much risk can you put in? They'll take the asset, yeah. You get it? The lender will take the asset at some point if you don't perform. But inevitably, yeah, everybody talks about OPM, but how much skin can you put in? And that's why it's so hard for them, because they don't want to understand the value of their dollar first.
So what is the value? If you could what is the value of the dollar?
Save your money.
Okay.
You need to save your money. You need to understand where you're trying to go. Make a plan, have a goal. If your rent is $500, you might need to make $1,200. And you might need to, and you might need to only know that, hey, the expenses outside of that are $200. You got to be able to save on a small scale to be able to get to a larger scale. If you can't respect the small change, how the hell you ever going to get to the big change? You're going to lose it every time. And that's what we do. Every time. We're never mimicking what other people do. You think you're going to buy a house right now, but you're not willing to sit there and be like, hey, come over here, pay that $350 and you guys are happy. You always want more. We always want more. We're never satisfied. And that's what I had to learn. Look at them. They're satisfied. Be satisfied with where you are in order to be able to see the next mountaintop. But if you can't be still and understand everything worth having takes time.
Is that not?
I ain't no trust fund, baby.
Is that not settling though? In some regards.
No, because guess what? It's understanding the system. If you don't understand the system that you're in, you too far talking about settling. You ain't never even built nothing. What are you selling for? What are you talking about? What's your standard? Something you've never seen or never seen anybody right next to you accomplish? Be quiet. Be quiet and be still. Because it was my Chinese friends that taught me, Jazz, we count pennies. So if you sit there and you see they got way more than the black dollar, why wouldn't you mimic them? They respecting the change that you not. When I went to go volunteer at the shelter, we passing out food from Trader Joe's. Wasn't a black soul in that line. They were all immigrants taking advantage of our tax dollars. But we always talking about, that's my property. Until the city says you got to pay to guess what? Do the concrete and pay the city parks and recs. Go to California, check. See who doing the sewer lateral before things close.
That's interesting. It's like, so you're talking about seriously reshaping the, like just redesigning our minds on what we thinking, and just looking at the dollar, looking at, you know, your hard-earned money, looking at it differently, spending it differently, investing it differently, and really paying yourself first too. Because I think when we get paid, we think that's the payment, but we really get paid when we pay ourselves.
You got it.
Just because somebody paid you, don't mean you paid yourself.
You waiting for the next paycheck. That's like active income until it becomes passive. And that's what I did. That's what put me through college. I didn't get the trade until I made the investment in myself. So I worked every day. I had 2 days off in a month. Every single day, okay? And I took that money.
That's tough.
And I bought a fourplex. And guess what? I sat there in the 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath. I couldn't even furnish it. So what does that tell you? And guess what? Don't get a supplemental tax bill because the roads have to be redone. Guess who's going to pay that? And your fixed mortgage goes up. People won't tell you that.
Now, break that down. What's the supplemental tax bill?
Meaning that, hey, a supplemental tax bill is essentially a supplemental tax that the city can send you, right? Because they essentially fix some infrastructure in the neighborhood. Whether it's lights that improve your neighborhood. And who's going to pay for it?
And you got to pay it.
This is what taxes are. People don't understand the game. That's why they go, oh, yeah, I'm about to go get this house. And then you become house poor because you don't understand the whole infrastructure around real estate.
Yeah. But if I'm already paying taxes, how can it hit me with a supplemental tax bill when I'm already paying my taxes?
You don't get the system.
All right, help me get the system.
Your road, boom, you got a bunch of dings in your road, potholes. You guys all write to the city, hey, we need our road fixed.
Oh, they're going to fix it, but you're going to pay for it.
That's right. The people that own.
But the property taxes don't go towards that? No. The property taxes go towards...
And do an improvement in your house. Then you want an improvement in your home. You go and you fix the bathroom, the kitchen. You're going to get another supplemental tax bill if you're honest about it.
For improving your home?
Yes, sir.
But I'm paying them to improve if I'm paying them for their improvements and I made the improvement myself, well, I got to pay them again.
Because the value goes up. What do you think the taxes get assessed on?
Now what if let's say I'm loaded and the neighbors like, we need the road fixed. And I say, fret no more, neighbors. You ain't even got to reach out to uncle saying, I'll fix the road. And I paid for the road to get fixed. They gonna feel me on that? Or I'm thinking too deep into it?
I think you're digging too deep into it because now you're sitting there, that's city property.
All right. I see.
You got me? That's their game. That's their. It's part of the game. It's a part of understanding the system. And that's why I've done so much education in order, right? It takes experience to gain wisdom. Wisdom comes with experience. And that's the reason why when you're talking to people that aren't really in it, just like investors, why they want me to manage their projects or why they come and they feel safe with me even to represent them as an agent. Because I'm an investor myself. We're not talking the same language as a sales agent who's just trying to sell you. They, you know. Yeah. You got to go through things.
And so what are some of the things that you can share that you might have gone through that have made you wiser in, like, especially like investments? Like you talked about buying your first fourplex. You had some other investment properties that you were managing. Like, what are some things that kind of like woke you up as an investor and just kind of just getting into real estate?
Know what side of the street you're buying on. Understand that if you ever buy a house on below surface grade level, you're probably gonna have a water problem. Water's one of the biggest problems because water travels.
Yeah, it's always moving.
Flat roofs, infrastructure. Know what you're buying in. Study your submarket that you're gonna purchase in. One of the biggest things is, what does that submarket look like? When I say submarket, meaning what is that small area, right? There's pockets within an area. So study that. What schools are there? What is the city building around it? You know? Even your primary residence. You don't have to necessarily buy 4 units. Some people have a family, and they really need to buy a house for their family. You know, their wife is on their neck. Study. See if you're going to gain value. You know?
I want to talk about that, too. I kind of want to pivot because when it comes to, like, buying a house for your family, right? You know, the American dream is everybody wants to have that house with the white picket fence. And, of course, you know, when it comes to as an investment, you know, it's not necessarily any equity in the home right away, right after you purchase it, and it's, you know, you always end up it's a liability instead of an asset at first. Because I hear people say that all the time, and especially like some investors will be like totally against, like, as your first house, don't buy the house you want to live in forever. Buy an investment property that you would live in and then lease it. Like, what are your thoughts on that? And, you know, for people that are just trying to get into their first house, like, what would be some advice you would give them to help them look at it differently if you feel differently about just assets versus liabilities and how people are traditionally buying homes?
I would say in today's time, always look at what you're willing to sacrifice.
Okay.
Okay, I've lived by tenants, one of the biggest headache. But, I mean, I did it for 9 years. Okay? I gained. But I sacrificed a lot. But I gained a lot. But you got to know who you are. Meaning some people, they do not want to live by what they're investing in, okay? But essentially, you don't have to. You can do short-term rentals. You can sit there and house hack. Buy you a house. Build a little ADU behind it. Make it a project with you and your wife, right? You guys work. You guys are at home. If you guys understand craftsmanship, do it. I mean, you can sit there and go on YouTube and build something. You can even sit there and buy something from Home Depot and pimp it out on the inside. I mean,
yeah, they do got these little mini modular homes
that's what
now.
I'm saying. There's so many avenues to things, and even repurposing that later when you sell it, right? You can bring value by house hacking, you know? And so what I would say is just know what you're willing to sacrifice, what you can put up with, and then when you buy with the ability to do that. Make that your goal. Make that part of your plan. Right? Everybody wants to gain value. What does that look like for you? Educate yourself. But essentially to me, every deal is different. Every deal is different. Some families are willing to live with their other family members. Like in California, a bunch of people have to live together. But that's multiple incomes, meaning you can save more.
Yeah.
Okay? Some people, they don't want anybody in their house. But they're willing to say, hey, my husband's really good with building. He builds my bed. He does this. He makes me tables. So, babe, can you buy something in the back of the house if I work overtime? 3 times out of the month. Like, it's what you're willing to sacrifice, and then making it a part of your plan, saying what you can deal with, and doing that.
Would you say that now is the time with us potentially heading into another? No, you answered it. You gave us some context, and I want to follow up with this to give people more context on the timing to buy, right? Like, you got a lot of mixed feelings. Some people saying wait. Some people say push forward and buy now if you can. It's like, with you being in it, what would you say people should do? Like, even if somebody is really trying to make it happen, they want to buy a home, but they either want to hold off because they think a recession is coming, but somebody tell them, no, buy now. And now they may not have all the funds, but they can make something happen. Like, is now the time to buy? Definitely. Despite interest rates being high.
Yep.
Why so? Why definitely?
Because essentially, do you really ever think it's going to go down again? Look at how many people know about real estate now. Where did Warren Buffett just put his money? In L&R, D.R. Horton, and KB Homes, right? Which is some of the biggest developers. So essentially, you should probably be putting your money into that in a perspective of business as well in the stock market.
Okay.
Okay. But also, what do you buy? Buy. Even if you have to buy out far. Population control. Why do you think COVID just happened? Stop playing the fear game of what you're watching all the time and get into being a still game and being smart.
What do you mean by still game?
Meaning, get still enough to see what the fuck is going on.
Slow it down for them, right? You gotta slow things
You're
down.
just talking about the news. I don't watch the news.
Yeah.
You get it? I don't watch the news unless it's CNN and my stocks are going up. And that's that. I don't give a hell about a meteorite coming to take me out. The world's fucking sick. Okay? You gotta be paying attention.
So some people think that is paying attention though.
Oh, that's the problem. That's exactly what they're betting on.
So all right, if it's not the news, how do you pay attention? How do you know what's going on with the real estate market specifically? Like
you should be dialing into what you want to build on. If you care about investing in yourself, as we said, it starts with information, then you get education, and then you execute. Right? That's the reason why. Hey, I'm here. Call me. What do you want to do? People are right. You're scrolling, but are you actually executing on that information? Are you actually investing in yourself with people that are actually doing? There's a lot of people showing some results. Interview them.
So
$50 for 30 minutes to gain something, and a lot of times the people that are doing are going to give you resources anyway. They're not worried about it. They want you to win.
Yeah.
Like me. I want everybody to win. What you eat doesn't make me shit.
Yeah, and it's a lot less competition than the world tries to paint it too. I think the world, the media, social media is like they try to pit us up against each other where it's like this world of competition and we gotta over compete, and we now have this scarce mindset like, oh, if I don't get it before them, it ain't gonna be enough for me. But I do get that's why I love Atlanta so much. Like since moving here, I get that sense of collaboration from the people that I interact with. It's like people honestly do want to give value because they know if you take it and you actually do what they say, then you're going to win. And that's really all that matters. You know, it's like a walking testimony. It's not really thinking, oh, I got to hold this to myself because I don't want them to put me out of business. Right. I don't really think that exists.
I think it exists, but it exists in the person that doesn't know their own worth and their own self and who they're connected to. Your job is to serve. You already got your gift. But I like what you said. And you knew you were speaking to my heart, how my eyes were. Because I was like, that happened for me. That happened even to me where I was sitting there and I was like, you know, do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? And like, am I going? I started to get into that feeling. That feeling of jealousy. Everybody gets it. Are you willing to check it?
Yeah.
To see who you are and where God has positioned you. It was the scrolling thing. It was the I have to perform. And
it's like asking yourself that question, like when you like checking it is hard,
man.
Because sometimes you don't even know when you acting out of jealousy or you try to move too fast just because like, oh, I got to get a house because I just seen my friends buy this house. But are you even in position? Man. Is it even your time? I know we saying buy a house right now is the time to buy, but is it your time? Is it your time?
That's right. And it don't mean that you can't get ready because right when the opportunity is going to meet you, God wants you to have it. If you're doing things on a positive level with a positive intent in your heart, trust me, mark my words, he's going to meet you.
So let's say, this is interesting, right? Because I want to put myself in a position like, okay, let's say it's the time to buy now. Yeah. But it's not my time to buy now. I'm not ready. Well, for whatever reason, God has given me these obstacles that's giving me the sign up. It's not my time to buy now. Let's say fast forward 6 months. Everybody's saying it's not the time. Now we in a different market. Things have changed. And it's not the ideal time to buy. But something is saying I should buy. Should I buy?
Definitely.
So it's always a time to buy, really.
That's right.
Okay.
And your story is your story. Your race is your race. That's the best part. Guess what? You want to know what I learned from Asians?
Agents or Asians?
The Asian community.
Okay. What you learned?
Never buy when everybody's buying. Buy when everybody's not buying.
I heard that. Yeah, I heard that too. Yeah.
It's simple. Remember, I told you, we're just talking half the time. talk too much and they bet on it. But we're not being active and listening.
Plus, that's where
to
the
them.
deals are too, at the stuff that nobody want.
You get it? But it's all about, are you a visionary? Can you create the next thing? You know what I'm saying? To monetize off of. Can you see it? Are you still enough to actually do the work and the dreams and the visions that are in your heart? Are you so into somebody else?
Why do you think people want what everybody else want? Because it takes because I even had to talk to my wife about that sometimes. Yeah. Like, what you mean he made us like that? Like the shiny object syndrome, is that kind of what it is?
It's the crab in the bucket syndrome. It's the just like how the Jews wanted to be slaves again syndrome. Like, it's comfortability. Right? It's the savage in us too. It's that's the reason why it's all about choice. Life is choice driven. Who are you and what are you gonna do? What are the choices that you are gonna make? Not the choices that Kai made. Not the choices that Jasmine made. But who are you?
And you said, who are you on paper too? It's like, outside of what we talked about with the budgeting, what are some other ways to find out who you are on paper? And we talked about the different resumes that you can have. We talked about, the real estate resume. We talked about the job resume, but we also talked about the you resume.
Yep. What does your trauma resume look like?
And you putting, like, practically, are you actually putting this on paper, or is this just like a mental note? Is this just like some self-inventory that you're doing?
You should be writing this down. What does your trauma resume look like? What are those embryonic changes that's not allowing you to take the risk? That's allowing you to procrastinate on yourself every day. That's wanting you to go and get that weed or go drink that 1942 and shift the mindset when you feel that little bit of fear or anxiety, so you say you have, because, you really want to push through to the dreams you have.
But you're really not getting there doing those things.
Because you haven't had a trauma resume. You don't know the things that are actually holding you back. You're not in the business of you.
And it's a reason why, and when you think about it, it's a reason why in poverty-stricken environments, it's a liquor store and a drugstore on almost every corner.
Come on, this is big business. This is big business. So if we can shift the mindset, right? And that's the reason why I say, like, for me, that's more, people are already, honestly, people are always, they want my information. I've done so much stuff. I more so care about the business of people. I build people, purpose, and portfolios, but first the person. Because right then, if they could sit there and even take this step back and be like, man, I'm crying on the phone because I see I got some more work to do on me. To then watch how they go on a whole life journey. Next thing you know, they back in 12 months and they're like, Jasmine, it's time to go. But it's go time, and they're stronger than they ever have. And they literally, their plans are written out. You talking about a business plan. They're not playing.
They're not playing.
They're not playing.
They're not playing
anymore.
They got all these stuff lined. They got all the stuff lined up.
But half the time, the strongest people are willing to do the work.
We talked a little bit about that earlier on another conversation. It was like this young lady was talking about how she got laid off and she had to go from like now 8 to 10 hours self-employed working into just learn the skill of wholesaling, right? Yes. She was a wholesaler. And she was saying how most people will talk about like, wholesaling's dead because these are the same people that spent 1 hour or got, had a list of 100 and got 10 no's. And, nah, people are not selling right now. And then they jump out of it. And so when you hear about the work, it really takes a lot of work to, like you said earlier too, it's like it takes an immense amount of work to unlock the gift of abundance. Because like we all have the gift, but it's like it's locked away in a treasure chest that got 1,000 locks, and you got to find the key to each one of those locks.
You got to push yourself. Just like me, I had to push myself to go to Detroit to do tax liens. I had to go to Chicago in the flats to see the land there and then help other people acquisition it, even from partnering, stepping away from the deal, but still willing to help them because I wanted them to succeed. To where now they have value and they're buying more things in now Nevada. But you gotta go and beat the block to gain the knowledge and the experience, to build on that, to give out more information, or to be successful at what you want to do. Like, I don't know what people think I was like, this is done overnight.
I don't understand that either.
I don't get it.
And it's like,
and they put themselves in this big war with themselves.
And it's like, I feel like I don't know what started it, Amazon or social media, right?
Social media.
With the get rich quick or the overnight success, and just think people assuming that anything good happens overnight. And it's like, we got to go back. Every time I talk about this, I'm reminded of the saying, like, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. And it's like, okay, yeah, the faster you got it, the faster you can lose it.
Yep.
Cause it's like, it's like the Chinese bamboo tree. It's like, it shot up 90 feet in 3 days. But nobody talks about how that seed that was planted, it was growing that root system for years. For 5 years, it's growing these roots, and nobody sees the growth for 5 years. Somebody walk up and they see this, they see this little sprout. It's like, oh, it looks like a bamboo tree. Come back 3 days later, it's 90 feet tall. And we think, oh, I could grow 90 feet in 3 days. Let's get it. Not realizing that you got to establish the roots first, and that takes about 5 years.
You get it? And just to speak to you at that, it reminds me of my pastor, Gabriel Powell, here at Encounter Church. He said it. The faith, everybody says the faith of a mustard seed. A mustard seed is so little, but it grows 30 feet tall and 20 to 30 feet in circumference. But look at how long it takes. The faith has to grow over time to get that big. Mm-hmm. It takes time.
And consistency, too.
Consistency.
You got to keep watering it, keep tending to it.
Getting knocked down, just like I was. I mean, I remember sitting there talking about, I'm building this brokerage, having people, boom, next thing you know, people were falling out. This, and I was like, God, what do you want from me? I'm doing something positive. Wait, I want to help. But he was like, Jasmine, I've developed you so much. You don't even get your gift. You've been preaching around town since you were 12 years old. Why shouldn't you be talking to people, allowing them and giving them the resources? And that's when I was like, this is what it is. The more I've been able to talk to people, touch people, consult with people, that's what's going to drive them. Because it's that individual room. It's like therapy.
Yeah.
You paying for therapy half the time and talk about your problems. Well, let's work it out and make sure you monetize later off of it.
Yeah.
After you get the help.
Right.
After you focus into you, now let's drive you. Let's go. Let's see how much you're going to drive yourself.
Yeah, I understood the term misery love company once I realized that people they just want you to listen while they talk about their problems, but don't you dare tell me how to fix it. It's like, don't you dare tell me what I need to do.
Now.
I just wanted you to listen to me talk about why this person wronged me. But I didn't expect for you to tell me they wronged me because I wronged them first, or I was doing X, Y, Z, and I was neglecting this, and I was doing that on the side. It's like, we just want to talk, but we don't want to do.
Mm-hmm. And we don't want to be accountable for our choices in it.
Dang.
You know?
But the
That's
toughest
why
thing.
I love you though, Kai, since I met you, because it was that vibration of just almost like it was accountability, but like silence is golden, you know, and being able to see. Mm-hmm. And now we're here. Yeah,
and that's the beauty of accountability partners too, is because it is very challenging to hold yourself accountable.
It is,
especially while you're still in the process of developing yourself and
still bringing value at that same time.
Yeah, and you worry about bringing, and if you see the value you bringing, it's definitely hard for you to be accountable in the areas you lacking. Because I'm doing this. This is what I want. I want to focus on all the good I'm doing. Yeah. But let somebody tell you this is where it's hard to be held accountable. So I guess.
Look at us right now, though.
Yeah.
And that's through two actualized people that's willing to receive, be accountable, where maybe they didn't perform or they did perform. Not take it personal, but still move on and have business. And that's what people really need to hear. It's not about the pride of life.
Yeah.
That shit'll kill you.
Yeah.
You gotta be willing to be okay and correct the mistakes and still go forward. But unless you're accountable with yourself first, it's hard to even still bring value. But I see that as in a man and a king, and even in your business, you're still doing that. No matter what, has fallen through, it never fell through.
It was just
it was just timing.
Yeah, it just took a little dip real quick, and then it always finds its way back. And like we were speaking earlier, it's like life is full of those dips and then those peaks. And it's like naturally you can't have a peak without a dip, and vice versa.
On purpose.
Yeah,
ours was on purpose. Look at where we both are now. We were talking about this the other day. We both had to get centered, and get refocused about what God has for us and what our passion is.
Yeah,
and I see you. I do.
And I think if we would have had this conversation the first time I pitched it, it probably would have fell by the wayside because, prior to, fast forward, I had did a whole hiatus, to kind of like put the podcast thing to the side. Everything, it could have, it could have fell in a place where it was kind of, recorded and forget it. But now I feel like it's going to resonate a lot more and even play a big part to our relationship as well, just because of not pushing it, not forcing it, and then just kind of letting these things happen naturally. Yes. I mean, it's just a reminder that everything is God's timing. It's not we want to be rich, we want to be successful, we want to be entrepreneurs, we want to be, our own boss, but we don't know how to surrender the timing to the higher power. Yeah. And we talked about being our own boss too, about why people don't want to. Now a lot of people don't want to go back to the workforce. It's jobs struggling to find employees because nobody want to go back to work after PPP, after these different loans and unemployment and these benefits now that people are getting from not taking a job. Now people just like, I don't even want to work. I'd rather finesse, or I'd rather get paid, by doing nothing, or I'd rather just, try and get this money on my own and say I don't have a boss, say I don't clock in, say I, control my own hours, but we still struggling.
And with humility, they would have got that W-2, they would have already become funded and already had their down payment with their PPP. I mean, not like that, but it's about timing and what you have and where you're going to put it towards it. Mm-hmm. You get it? It's all about the numbers. But if you got 100,000 and then you take yourself down to 20, honey, you're done.
Yeah.
You're done.
And it's
you're
a
over.
difference too between being self-employed and being a business owner too. Because I think people don't really understand the difference, and I think everybody's aiming for self-employment.
People don't understand what business looks like.
Yeah.
You can be employed by somebody else and still have a business.
Exactly.
And be able to use that money to cycle revenue through your business. You have to understand money first, though.
Yep.
And you have to understand business, and you have to understand business credit, and you have to understand personal credit, and you have to understand everything that's built around it. A lot of people can't grasp any concepts at one time. That's why they call me. But I get it.
And I'm learning too, Jazz, that a lot of these CEOs of these Fortune 500 companies got their own businesses.
Well, they're just the manager in it. See, it's how you position yourself in it. It's all about model. Mm-hmm.
But the reason why I said that too is just because they're employed, but they also have their own business.
Come on.
And a lot of people think being self-employed is the goal, but being self-employed means you still own a job, but you are now falling under the pressure of figuring out where your paycheck is coming from.
They're trying to conquer two things at once.
Yes.
You're trying to develop the business and be the employee of the business. Stop. You don't even have the revenue yet. Mm-hmm. Okay? So make sure that you're sustainable over here while you're building this business. So the best thing is to educate yourself in what you want to grow business in and get paid while you're learning it. Just like how we said in the beginning.
And also not just looking at a job as a paycheck either.
It's an investment in your education.
Yeah.
This is your trade.
Yeah.
This is your trade to suffice your business. But you're building on the mistakes that they're making or getting around them because you're like, that's not what they're doing. So you're already building on their process and protocol. It makes it easy for you. You're not just sitting out there like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me do this? Mm-hmm. You hear a lot of people go, well, I need you to help me do this.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest, to other black people because they're scared to go somewhere else or somebody else is not willing to listen to them. Because unless they're making money off of us, they don't want to hear you. Mm-hmm. They already got the game. And they already have the family to do it.
Yeah.
You see it. They can sustain. They can be together. I dated Hispanics and Asians when I was growing up, not black guys. And guess what? That's how I learned. They willing to be together. They bicker in the same day, and guess what? They all still putting in their rent money. Ain't nobody talking about, I'm not about to put. They're not talking about that. My first building, I put my mother in it. She fixed everything. I just had the business model.
Yeah.
But if they can do it, why can't we?
We can.
Everybody told me it wouldn't work.
And it's just unlearning some things, some things that is some generational curses.
The embryonic chains, the traumas.
Yeah.
Figure out what your traumas are. Make sure you do that trauma resume.
The trauma resume is that's a kicker, because I ain't never heard nobody say that. But I mean, it makes sense on why it's important too. Like just writing it down is the best way to just fully understand something. Because a lot of times we keep things in like ideas. We get an idea, we keep it in our head, and then next thing we know, we think, hey, what was that idea I had? So if you're thinking about something that excited you, you forgot something that excites you, you're definitely going to forget about a trauma. You're going to volunteer to forget about that trauma if you don't write it down.
I mean, nobody wants to write that down. It's painful. And that's why I'm telling you, like, you don't necessarily have to share your traumas with the world. You get what I'm saying? I'm not telling you to bare your whole butt out there. That's the hardest part to deal with, then shame, right? You got to understand the blueprint first. First, reveal it to yourself. Are you being real with you?
Mm-hmm. As we start to transition, Jazz, I want to ask you for some practical advice for our audience, right? Let's say like somebody who's listening to this might be in a place where they feel broken and they just because of timing, they stumbled across this episode at the perfect timing. Mm-hmm. And they feel broken. If you could recall the time you felt the most broken or just didn't feel yourself, what were some steps that helped you get out of that position and back onto the track of fulfilling yourself, back on track of purpose, back on track of, just finding the true you?
It was my relationship with God.
Starts there.
My mother couldn't help me. My father couldn't help me. My friends couldn't help me. It felt like they were all turning their back on me. I couldn't even see the way out. I didn't know which way I was going. I felt like I was losing everything. I was screaming out, It was God alone. He brought me back to those basics and back to him, and I'm so grateful. Prayer really works, y'all.
Yeah.
That's one thing I can tell you. And not just prayer. Like I said, being willing to give it up. Lay it all on the line. He says it's simple. Give it up. Your trauma resume can start in that room. Like he said, maybe you don't write it down, but give it up. On your knees, give it up. Give it up to him, specifically.
That's deep.
And I just got consistent with that. I was consistent with everything else.
But not that.
And God's not wondering, you going to ask God, is he going to be loyal to you? He's wondering, are you going to be loyal to him? And in turn, that's being loyal to you.
Yeah.
Man can't eat off bread alone, like we said the other day.
Nah, you eat bread every day, you definitely gonna get a little.
So you can go chop it up with your partners and talk all your feelings out and be like, yeah, this is that. Vent every day. But when people get tired of you venting, where's your strength? Where's your faith? Where is your rebuilding? Where's your restoration? When you keep saying, I'm tired, no one can help you. It was God that restored me.
Yeah. Because you said something there too, because like people hear you venting every day, you just putting a timer on how soon they're going to give you that feedback that you don't want to hear.
Come on, listen. And I screamed in the room too.
And you don't want to hear it from them.
I hurt some friends with my words, screaming at them because I didn't want to hear it.
But it just hit because God also going to give you that accountability, but God always going to say it in the perfect way and just the way you needed to hear it. Sometimes he might use somebody else to tell it to you, because that might be the one person that said the same thing everybody else said, but it didn't rub you the wrong way. Or it might be a situation that humbled you.
You're on it.
Or it might be an opportunity that really, really humbles you, or an opportunity that says, oh, this is what I've been looking for. It's going to be some way that you're going to get that feedback you needed, but it's always going to, that's how you know it's from God, because it came how you needed it when you needed it.
That's right. And you're never going to be able to envision how it's going to come.
Mm-hmm.
It's the things that we can't see.
Yeah.
We're always looking for the physical, the things that we can, but it's the spiritual one. Can you be still enough to have enough discernment to identify it when it comes, just because it doesn't come the way you wanted it?
Mm-hmm. I don't want to misquote him, but Big Sean said something that I heard a couple years ago when I was going through like a major transition in my life, and he said on a podcast, being famous taught me that I needed to learn how to be still in the chaos, and to be moving in the stillness, but to be still in the chaos. So never chaos, but it was more so him speaking to when everybody else is stagnant, still knowing when to move, because you got to move out of that space for sure. And then when everything is chaotic, being still and watching and listening and hearing and seeing what's going on. Yeah. That's what that reminded me of. And
it's the real bag.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you can do that. That's what I'm focused on.
Yeah, and it's a lot of peace in that too. Once you learn how to do it the right way.
Perfect peace. He'll give you perfect peace.
Facts.
I'm telling you.
Facts. Let's say you get ready to on your way back, you happen to run across a spin image version of 18-year-old Jasmine. What would be some advice you would give to that young woman?
Take your time.
Take your time. What if she says, why? I want it now. I'm trying to move now. What's your follow-up?
Be hasty for nothing. Right? Worry and faith can't stay in the same spot. So that's it. Be patient. It takes time to read the chapters.
Yeah.
Everybody always wants to read the front cover and the back and jump in. It was when I didn't read the chapters that I got hit the hardest. Make sure you read the whole book.
From front to back. That's deep. Jazz, it's been this conversation has really been transformative. It's been a huge reminder. And I feel like this is one of those episodes that our audience is y'all gonna have to watch this one a couple times, because I feel like if this is your first time getting this information, it might have went in one ear and out the other. It might have flew over their heads. This is one of them conversations where you got to really tap in and listen to the words that's not being spoken to really get it. And I just appreciate you for, being able to be transparent, being open, being honest, and really just sharing your time with me on a Saturday to have this conversation. I feel like there's a lot of other ways we can take it, but I feel like we gotta sprinkle it on them for a part 2, something like that. You know what I'm saying? But for our audience that has tapped in for this part 1, tell them where they can find you. If you have any, announcements, anything you're really excited about, I just want you to be able to share that so that we can, continue to tap in and continue to develop those people. Most importantly.
Awesome. Well, I'm Jasmine Jenkins. You can find me at heavyhouse_jazz. My business is the Heavy House Group. You can find that at the Heavy House Group on IG, Facebook, all of that. And if you're interested in going ahead and getting a consultation, you could just go ahead, www.theheavyhouse.com, heavyhousegroup.com, and go ahead and put consultation and your contact us, and we'll go ahead and get on. Heavy, you see it.
Yeah, I'm about to say,
this is our
heavy
clothing line. It's really for my daughter. Intellectual property. Make sure you trademarking things. That's just another gem to drop. But we're big on just the children. Making sure that they put her mark on it.
Yeah.
So she's gonna come out as accessories and different things.
That's heavy.
Yeah,
that's heavy, right?
heavy.
That's that generational
heavy.
wealth.
So just making sure that we speak in volumes through everything that we do, right? The Heavy House Group, essentially, we are a development company. We help other investors project manage, but essentially our biggest asset is information, right? So make sure that you're calling us. We help you through the acquisition process, the disposition process, and getting through that project, nonetheless.
Yeah.
But remember, we're developing you first if that's where it needs to start.
Hey, and that's usually where it got to start, right? That's usually where, and most of us don't even know it.
Just coming raw, making sure you putting your ideas down.
Hey, y'all heard it from Jazz. Make sure you come as yourself. You come ready to let it go, ready to be transparent, and really just, outside of what you can do with Heavy, but just for yourself, just learning to submit. What you need to be, what you want, and just being honest about who you are, and come up with them resumes. Most importantly, that trauma resume, the you resume, all kinds of resumes that you might need. But I'm Kai Speaks. You just heard from Heavy House Jazz. Just remember to keep focused, build momentum, and drive results so you can live abundantly. Peace.